Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something pretty unsettling, a classic piece of American folklore, really.
That's right. We're talking about the alleged haunting of the Bell family. This was way back in the early 1800s in Tennessee.
And the source we're focusing on for this deep dive is an audio narrative, Shiver Stream Stories, the horror of the Bell Witch.
Yeah, it lays out the events chronologically, or at least as the story goes. It charts how things supposedly unfolded for the family.
Okay, so our goal here is pretty clear. Let's unpack the key events from that narrative, what happened, and maybe try to get a handle on why this story is still so chilling, so persistent after all this time.
Sounds good. It's a fascinating and frankly pretty disturbing tale.
Definitely. So let's set the scene. Where does the narrative say this all kicked off?
It places us in Adams, Tennessee, early 19th century. We meet the Bell family. John Bell is the head of the household.
And initially things are okay, just a normal farm life.
Pretty much. The narrative paints a picture of, peace and quiet, agrarian life, which I think is important setup.
Right, it establishes that baseline before everything goes sideways.
Exactly. That contrast makes the later events feel even more jarring.
So what was the first sign that things weren't normal? It wasn't something huge at first, was it?
No, not at all. According to the story, it started subtly with knocking sounds.
Knocking. Just random knocking.
Yeah, inside the house, often at night. Strange knocking noises. You know, the kind of thing you might try to explain away at first.
Sure. Old house, wind, animals.
Right. But the narrative stresses that these knocks became more intense, more persistent. They didn't stop.
Okay, so it moved beyond just, oh, that was weird, to something genuinely unsettling. That persistence is key.
Absolutely. It's that gradual buildup, that slow creep from maybe explainable to probably not.
That slow burn, yeah. That must have created this real sense of unease. And it didn't stay just knocking for long, did it?
No. The next phase, according to the narrative, was the emergence of a voice.
A voice, like someone talking.
A disembodied voice, described as belonging to a woman, seemingly coming out of thin air.
Wow. Okay, that's a big jump.
It is. The account says it started faint, kind of like whispers you couldn't quite make out. But then it apparently became clearer, definitely vocal, actual speech.
From unexplained sounds to an actual voice. That changes everything, doesn't it? It implies intelligence, maybe intent.
Precisely. It moves from passive anomaly to something potentially interactive. And the weirdness didn't stop there. The physical environment started acting up too.
Right, it wasn't just auditory anymore.
No, the narrative talks about increased paranormal activity, objects flying off shelves.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the family dogs apparently barking like crazy at empty spaces, nothing they could see.
That's classic haunting territory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Objects moving, animals reacting. It suggests something trying to interact with the physical world.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just messing with their senses to actually manipulating their surroundings. It taps into that fear of the unseen becoming tangible, becoming a threat.
And there's something else, something visual and pretty gruesome, actually. Marks on the house.
Yes, that's a really visceral detail in the account. Unexplained scratches appearing all over the house.
Scratches.
And described as being deep. Deep enough, the story claims, to draw blood if you touch them.
Okay, that is seriously disturbing. That makes it feel incredibly real and dangerous. Not just a ghost, but something physically damaging their home.
It really escalates the sense of threat, moving it firmly into the realm of physical danger.
And it seems like at some point this, whatever it was, started to focus its attention, specifically on John Bell.
That's a key shift in the narrative, yes. The entity, or the phenomena, seems to begin tormenting John Bell directly.
Singling him out.
It appears that way. This suggests, a specific agenda or maybe a particular animosity towards him.
And how did this torment manifest? What did it involve? Was it just the voice again?
It was the voice, but apparently much worse. Described as a hideous, agonizing voice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, whispering curses, insults directly at him. Purely malicious stuff.
Psychological warfare, almost.
Very much so. But it reportedly went beyond that. There were physical sensations, too.
Like what?
Feeling invisible hands touching his face, pulling his hair, really invasive, violating actions.
That's awful.
And at its worst, the narrative claims these attacks led to him being temporarily paralyzed, unable to move.
Paralysis. Good grief.
Yeah.
So it's psychological torment and physical assault.
A combined assault, yes. It paints a picture of relentless, targeted persecution.
But it wasn't only John, right? The narrative mentions the children too, especially Betsy.
That's correct. Betsy Bell is highlighted as another primary target.
What happened to her?
The story recounts her screaming at night, and the family finding unexplained bruises on her, signs of being physically attacked like she'd been beaten.
It's attacking a child. That adds a whole other layer of horror.
It really does. It taps into primal fears about protecting the innocent and vulnerable. It makes the entity seem utterly malevolent.
So facing all this, the family, understandably, looked for help.
They did. They were desperate. The narrative brings in a figure named James Johnston,
And who is he?
described as a local psychic. Someone the family hoped could understand what was happening, maybe communicate with this entity, maybe even stop it.
Right, calling in an expert,
Yeah.
essentially, or someone perceived as one.
Exactly. Their turning to outside help really underlines how powerless they felt.
Did Johnston's involvement help, or did it make things worse?
Well, the narrative suggests the entity, which people started calling the Bell Witch, was not happy about Johnston showing up.
It reacted.
Oh, yes, reportedly with fury. It apparently mocked Johnston, responded menacingly when he tried to communicate. It resisted his attempts.
So it didn't want interference. It was asserting its dominance, maybe.
That's certainly how the story portrays it. Like, it was powerful and unwilling to be challenged or understood.
And it's around this time during this interaction that the entity actually gives itself a name and makes a prediction.
A very grim one. According to the account, this is when it identifies itself explicitly as the Bell Witch,
Okay.
and then it declares its intention that it was there to cause John Bell's death.
It actually said that. That's incredibly chilling. It went from vague disturbances to a stated death threat.
A pivotal moment in the narrative, absolutely. It clarifies the entity's goal, or at least its stated goal, making the threat concrete and personal.
And the story doesn't end there, the prediction. It comes true.
Tragically, yes, according to legend, less than a year after this declaration, John Bell died.
Oh.
The narrative describes his death as being under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
It implies the witch fulfilled its promise.
Wow, the timing is just eerie. It really cements that feeling of a supernatural force at work.
It definitely fuels the legend's power, giving it that sense of dark prophecy fulfilled.
But with John Bell gone, did the haunting stop? Did the witch just leave?
Apparently not. The narrative says the entity, the witch, stuck around.
Still tormenting the rest of the family.
Yes, continued torment even after John's death. Which is interesting, right? Maybe its goal wasn't just John Bell, or maybe it was tied to the place itself.
That's a good point. So what happened to the family then?
Eventually, they couldn't take it anymore. The narrative concludes with the remaining Bell family abandoning the farm, just leaving it all behind.
Understandable. And yet, even though the family left, the story didn't. It's still around centuries later.
Very much so. The narrative points out this enduring legacy. The Bell Witch story is, like you said, a cornerstone of American ghost lore. It's lasted over 2 centuries.
And people still talk about it, like present day.
Yeah, the source mentions modern claims, people reporting strange encounters near the old Bell Farm location, whispers in the woods, feeling cold spots, seeing shadows move.
So the legend is still alive, maybe even still growing.
It seems to hold a powerful grip on the imagination, yeah. Fed by these ongoing anecdotes.
Okay, so recapping the narrative. It starts with knocks, escalates to a voice, then physical phenomena, objects moving, scratches.
Then focuses intensely on John Bell with psychological and physical torment, and also targets Betsy Bell.
Right. Then the psychic comes in. The entity names itself the Bell Witch, declares it will kill John Bell.
And he dies mysteriously soon after. But the presence lingers, forcing the family out.
It's a hell of a progression.
Yeah.
The targeting, the declaration, the fulfillment, those seem like the core elements that make it so memorable and terrifying.
Definitely. The narrative structure is very effective. It builds dread, focuses the threat, and delivers a dark conclusion followed by this lingering presence. It hits a lot of buttons related to our fears of the unknown and the malevolent.
It really does. So this deep dive into the horror of the Bell Witch, it leaves us thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Why this story? Out of all the ghost stories, all the tales of the unexplained, what is it about the Bell Witch that has resonated so strongly for over 200 years? Why does it stick with us?
That's the big question, isn't it?
What might its endurance tell us about our own anxieties? Our fascination with things we can't explain, the things that might just be lurking out there, something to think about.
Please subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to create even more great content for you. Thank you so much.